Well, right now I'm going to share a little bit about how amazing this Make a Cake Your Way mix is. Most companies have a lot of flavors on the shelf. You see spice and chocolate and vanilla, but I wanted to make a mix that was going to be really creative for the cook to make any flavor they want. One mix with the perfect blend of flours that allows you to create flavors. Also, I opted not to add any sweetener in the mix, so it allows you to add your own sweetener. On the back of this Make a Cake Your Way and Sweeten It Your Way, I have 4 recipes. One for chocolate cake and for brownies, which you can use the same mix for. One for a lemon cake, and one for a vanilla cake, which you could make spice or any other variation of that. I also have some options of sweeteners, but on the blog, goodandglutenfree.com, I go wild with fillings, flavors, sweetenings. So first, I think we're going to go through a little bit more in depth about sweeteners. Okay, on the back I talk about granulated sweeteners, liquid sweeteners, and non-nutritive sweeteners. And I wanted to mention, in terms of the granulated, I have 2 options actually. One is coconut sugar and one is cane sugar. Coconut sugar, you could use 1-to-1, but it has a very different flavor. Also, one of the things about cane sugar is it moistens, it sweetens, it browns, and it lets it rise. And it also doesn't mask the flavor. Coconut sugar, as delicious as it is, and it's very gentle glycemically, which is its biggest plus. When you make a cake with this, it's drier because it doesn't have the moistening effect that the cane sugar has. So when I use this, I first strategically think about what flavor, and maybe one of my favorite things to use this with is a spice cake because I'm adding cinnamon and I'm adding cloves, and somehow the coconut sugar, the flavor from that complements it beautifully. But I usually add a dollop or 2 of applesauce or something else that will aid in the moistening, because you will notice a big difference between that. Second one is I'm going to talk a little bit about liquid sweeteners. We have honey, maple syrup, and agave syrup. What happens with liquid sweeteners is you're messing a little bit with the wet-dry balance, so I ask in the directions for you, I make a suggestion to back off on the amount of liquid. I would probably not reduce the oil, but reduce the milk or the milk substitute, and also to lower the temperature that you use to heat it, because the reality is many of these liquid sweeteners will have a bit of a burnt flavor to them. My favorite thing is, if you really want to do some liquid sweeteners, is to do half and half, or maybe 2/3 of the drier sweetener, the granulated sweetener, and 1/3 of the liquid sweetener. In terms of non-nutritive sweeteners, you really have lots of options, and since I don't tend to cook that way, I'm not as versed in it, but I know if you do, you'll know exactly what to add for what. I want to mention something about stevia first. I have a friend with a plant, and I've taken a leaf and I've sucked the leaf, and voila, there it is, stevia, exactly as it tastes. But when you add heat to something like a cake, the sweetness bakes out, and all you're left with is a little bit of an aftertaste. Some people don't mind the taste, some people do, but just know that the bottom line of the sweetness isn't going to be there. Truvia, however, which is a blend of stevia and erythritol, does retain the sweetener. So at your own delight, use it or not, whatever is your preference. Splenda, I've tried it with Splenda and it does work well, and so that's another option if you tend to go that way. Xylitol, all the sugar alcohols that end in -ol, like maltitol and sorbitol and xylitol, it tends to have a bit of a laxative effect, and so again, beware. Some people can tolerate a teaspoon, but a cup in a cake is too much. So again, you know your bodies and your family's bodies, so use that with the bigger picture in mind.
So I want to talk a little bit about my very first experience using your cake mix. And I made chocolate cupcakes for a party. and I used coconut sugar. That's what I had in the house at the time. And I only had large eggs, and you recommend extra large. And the cupcakes turned out just a teeny bit more dry than I would have liked. Now, I did not realize that coconut sugar was drying. So now I know that. But are there any other solutions that you would recommend if people only have large eggs instead of extra large, or depending on what type of sweetener they're using?
Yes, certain recipes are very precise, but a cake mix really isn't. So if I had large eggs, I would probably add a fifth instead of 4. Okay, coconut sugar, delicious, low glycemically, but a little drier. What can I do to boost that? And that usually solves it.
So that's super helpful. So I could also mix my sweeteners if I wanted to do a little cane sugar and a little coconut sugar. But if I just wanted coconut sugar, I could add an extra egg or some applesauce or something like that. Okay,
yes, keep it in mind. It's the nature of the sweetener.
Great, that's really helpful.
Okay, well, earlier I used half of one mix to make a vanilla cake, half of another mix to make a spice cake, and half of another mix to make a chocolate cake. So if I used an entire mix, it would make 2, 2, and 2. Now I'm going to show you some quick and easy ideas, but I like it to be easy, wholesome, creative, and so I've come up with some suggestions I'm going to share with you. For the vanilla cake, I'm just taking some seedless blackberry jam, no seeds. That's important because, you know, you don't really want to crunch. And I'm just going to take a nice scoop. I'm going to put it in a sandwich bag. And I'm just going to do a little bit of this. I'm going to kind of mush it up a little bit because you know how jelly has the gelatin effect. I'm going to snip a little bit of the corner. And then I'm just going to be creative and make some swirls.
That is so easy.
Easy, delicious. You get as wonderful jam as you want. And if you happen to make a double layer, you can use this for the filling.
Delicious. Yep.
So that is very presentable. With the spice cake, I don't do dairy in my diet personally. It just, I love dairy, but it doesn't love me. So I just use a little bit of powdered sugar. Could make it look adorable.
That looks perfect for a Christmas table or some sort of holiday. Or
absolutely. It's very decorative. If you like to put flowers, there's edible flowers. Now for the chocolate cake, I happen to like nut butters and chocolate and the combination. So if that resonates with you, you could use cashew butter, you could use peanut butter, almond butter, sunflower butter. And I added a little bit of coconut oil to loosen it up. And I added...
You melted that, right?
I melted it because I want it to be a little more viscous. That's a big word. And I added a little agave syrup, again, maple syrup, whatever you like, and some nut butter. And I mixed it up, and I'm going to do the same thing with the baggie.
Now, we were talking earlier about what if people don't want to use a fat like a coconut oil?
Okay, very good question. Good question because not too many people understand this, but if you're starting with a nut butter that is an oil base, if you add something like water or juice to loosen it up, it literally will have the opposite effect. It'll coagulate. It'll get thick, almost like a solid. Because of the interaction of the water base and the oil base, it sort of counteracts the purpose. So you really do need to add an oil to your nut butter or your sunflower butter to loosen it up along with some of your sweetener. And again, you can use whatever sweetener you like. So I'm going to just a little baggie, make a little snip, and do a similar drape.
So can you explain why the chocolate cake is a little bit bigger than the other two cakes?
Yes, you will notice on the recipe that you're adding a cup of cocoa powder in addition to your sugar or your sweetener, in addition to the cake mix and the eggs. And because of the cocoa powder is a solid, but it's literally a whole cup of volume, You have to add a little bit more oil and a little bit more almond milk if that's the milk you choose. So then you have a cake that's a little higher than the rest because you literally have more volume.
That makes sense.
Okay, so there you have vanilla cake with seedless blackberry jam. You have spice cake with cinnamon and cloves, a recipe on the blog with a little powdered sugar, and chocolate cake with a nut butter and a coconut oil and agave syrup.
They look amazing.
Super. And we are going to smooth out one of them, put our lemon curd / lemon custard on there, and put the other one on top so we have a nice double layer cake that will feed 30 people. Now, if you have a cake knife or a serrated edge knife, sometimes called a bread knife, it works just fine to do the carve. You really do want to carve the cake so that it's flat. Otherwise, the top layer, it's all funny and it wiggles around. Because then I can do this back and forth. And I'm cutting this one because it has a little bit of a dip. I'm going to put the little extra topping right in my bowl, which I'll eat later. Another neat thing you can do with leftover cake, by the way, is make something called a truffle. Or is it a trifle?
It's a trifle, I think.
Okay, it's a trifle, where you could layer fruit, lemon cake, some type of moisture. In this case, maybe it would be a whipped, kind of a whipped topping, and it's pretty good. Now we're going to take out our amazing lemon curd, put it in the center, put that layer on top, and we're almost done. Be right back. Okay, so this is our lemon curd, lemon custard. You see how thick it is? It's no longer a liquid, but it's now spreadable. So I'm just going to put a little bit on here, strategic spots. It's really tart. It's like a concentrated lemonade. And I'm just going to give it a little spread because the center, when you cut into the cake, is going to have that amazing tart, lemon tart flavor that just completes the whole cake experience.
I'm drooling watching you do this.
Well, in a moment, you will not be drooling, you will be chewing.
Yum.
Okay, I could use it all, but if I use too much, I think it's going to ooze out the sides. This one, which has a nice top, and if it didn't, I'd probably, if it was symmetrical and it was a little higher, I would leave it. If it had a dip, I would leave it and put a little extra lemon curd in the middle. If it was lopsided, I'd probably even it out. But nonetheless, I'm just going to put this right on top, slide it out, move this to the side. And there you have it with a little more on top. We're going to do it up, as they say. Alana, you're going to just have to do it first because I don't like to talk with my mouth full.
I'd be happy to try. I really just love that you get to be creative and make these cakes your way. I mean, that's why you call it make a cake your way, but it's really true.
It is very true. And as I said, I am not a decorator. Nothing about this is anything that you can't completely do. All right, time to get the knife. Do the honors. I will get you a plate.
Oh boy, okay. Tell how moist it is.
Now see how?
All right. Here we go. That lemon curd just sends it over the top. Wow. Wow. Wow.
All right, you can make it at home.
So the chocolate is amazing and rich. You have such a rich chocolate flavor, and I love the nuts on top. or the nut flavor. Really, really, really tasty.
Your chocolate cake will be as good as the cocoa you use. So just find something you really like, and it's going to be perfect. Which one was that? Spice? Yeah.
Also really moist and flavorful. This is the perfect Thanksgiving meal, like dessert. Absolutely.
You can take the spice cake and you can grate carrots and make a carrot cake. And I made the spice cake using the vanilla recipe with some cinnamon and cloves.
Okay, last one.
Last one, vanilla with blackberry jam. All different.
Really simple, but a beautiful flavor combination, and I can tell that you can just do anything with this. You could ice it, frost it, put edible flowers on it, anything, and it would taste delicious.
All right. So once again, we fuss so you can enjoy. So enjoy. Thank you. And thank you, Alana.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Arnel.
Subscribe now to receive gluten-free tips, tidings, and trends from Arnel.
Wow.